Hi, I'm Maggie,
Hi, I'm Grace, and this is
a very bookish podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to episode 22 of a Very Bookish podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Today we have Tish, the book thief 28 on TikTok, or Book Talk, I guess is what we should say. But TikTok is the app that she is her main platform. Welcome, Tish. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're good. We had this chat before, but
Yeah, we did.
let everybody know how you're doing. And so I was very excited when I sent the email because I had been following you for a while, and I was like, oh my gosh, Grace, that's an amazing thing because like I've been getting into smutty adult romance, as we all know. That's the only thing I've talked about for like the last like 4 episodes is how I've been getting into smutty romances, and you are I feel like the queen of smut.
Oh my gosh.
Creator that I follow that actually does like a lot of smut content because I feel like there's a lot of YA and not enough adult creators.
Yeah. Like, it's funny because I literally joined TikTok because I was just like, okay, so where's the like new adult contemporary romances? And when like people were talking about it, it was like the same 5 books, and I was like, oh, I really want to expand and tell people like, hey, like it's okay to like read like smutty books, and there's a ton, and in like different genres and varieties. So like it's funny you say that because a lot of people are like, hey, I got into like adult books because of you, and I'm just like, oh my god, like that's great, but like how old are you? Like that's what I get scared about. I'm like, how old? And they're like, oh, I'm 18, and I was like, we're good. Like so
I definitely have to put those that's going to be a topic that I want to actually talk about, but I definitely put like on my videos that had started blowing up at the beginning of March was I started putting like 18 plus book recs because I don't want to be recommending this to 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds. I want to be recommending this to like women my age, 20
right.
20-year-olds who I feel like YA, but then there's like I want more, and so I'm proud to say I'm a smut reader. I read it purely for smut. I do not read it for the plot. I've said this multiple times, and I am not ashamed about it.
I mean, you shouldn't be. There's like so many. I literally have a series on TikTok called like 1% plot all porn reads, and like that's the series that like blew up. I posted it, and it's so funny because that TikTok, like I was talking to my best friend, and I was like, I was like, this is gonna get like 50 likes, and I logged on in an hour and it had like 50k likes. Like it was being shared, and like I went from like having like, I think I had like 2k followers to like 8k followers in a day, and I was just like, what is going on? And then people just like started finding my account more and more. But I mean, of course I read for, I mean, some books I do read for the plot, but like let's be real, I read it mostly for like the smut scenes. So, and I'm totally okay with that. But I have noticed that you've been on the smut train, and I'm just like, go Mags. Like
It's like I gained like 3,000 followers just because of my smut content. And then when I try to post anything YA, they're like, honey, put that back in the cage. Bring out the beast. Like we need the smut. We need the sex. I have the series Books That Made Me Blush, and
yes.
like my highest liked, highest viewed, highest shared content, and I was like, okay, so I found my niche. So
Yeah.
it's something that that's why I'm gonna take a break, is because like I need to just read and like not, because I feel like I don't know about you guys, but like I involuntarily open the TikTok app. Like I just do it involuntarily. Like when you are like on your phone browsing, you just hit the TikTok app, and then you're like, and then you spend like 40 minutes on there. You're like, I wasn't even trying to be on TikTok.
I have been trying to read, and for the past like people probably on this podcast know I haven't read a book for a very long time, and I've been trying to read, but every time, like this morning, for example, I woke up around 8, which is late to me because like usually I go into work like around 8:30. So I woke up kind of late today, and it's the weekend, so I'm like, okay, everybody else is sleeping in, so I take my dogs out, and then I go downstairs and I'm like, cool, no one's awake. I can sit down, I can read. And as soon as I sit down, I'm like, okay, let me just check my TikTok real quick. I spent 2 hours on it and I did not touch my book once. And I'm literally carrying my book from place to place with me everywhere because I get sucked into TikTok. And it's not even like me actually paying attention to the videos, it's just me scrolling or checking.
Scrolling, yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
But I get a lot of ideas. So it balances out, I guess. I don't know.
I've like done this habit now where I'll check it in the morning. Like I'll check my videos and comment back and I'll do that stuff. Post my video if it needs to be posted. And then I have gotten into the habit of like completely like just keeping my phone away from me, if especially when I need to read, because I spend hours on that app sometimes, and sometimes I don't even get ideas. Sometimes I'm just like mindlessly scrolling, and like I'll be like, I get involved with like TikTok drama that I don't need, like the whole Nessa and I don't even know their names, like Jaden and all them. I'm like, why is a late 20-year-old like know about TikTok teenagers? Because it's on my For You page. I'll like go down the deep dive of like book talk. Like I end up like in fantasy book talk for a lot of reason, and I don't even read and you guys know this, I don't read fantasy, and I'm just like, wow, that series looks great. It's just I knew about ACOTAR before I read ACOTAR. Like I knew the whole from start to finish, theories, like you name it. I know about like who people hate, who people love. Like it's TikTok is so addicting, and like that's the worst part about being a reader, because like especially when you're a book talker, like you'll be on TikTok and you'll be like, oh shit, but I actually need to read. Like sometimes I feel like I have so much to read because I will never catch up with my I'll die before like I catch up with my TBR at this point, because I'm constantly adding. Like people will be recommending a book and I'll be like, oh cool, like adds to like my Goodreads account. But TikTok is addicting, so I don't blame you. And I know like Grace, you've been saying that you haven't read a book, and I literally I'm like, girl.
Hey, I mean, we were talking about this yesterday on the live stream. Somebody commented on Eamon's live and was just like, what percentage of being on BookTok is like actually reading and actually on BookTok? And I was like, first of all, it was like, I think I said it was like 50% of scrolling, 50% scrolling, and then like 20% like actually creating content, and then like 2% actually reading, and the rest is just adding to your Goodreads. That's really what it is. It's so hard to be on BookTok because it's not just about like, yeah, you have to read and all of those things, but it's about making content about those books, because anybody can be like, oh, I read this book, and then kudos to the people who can do like their whole account is just quick 30-second reviews, but then that doesn't work for everybody. Everybody has to find their niche, and everybody has to find what works for them, what will get them the most views or whatever. And that's like a whole thing. But it's creating quality content that you like, and content that you enjoy making. Because if you don't like making it, then it's going to flop no matter what. But it's hard recording so many videos and then posting them, and then sometimes it pans out, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
I literally take I think I take like 1 day a week to like record all my videos for like weeks to come, because unless it's like a little like skit is what I would say, like those like sounds with like word, like I did a Kourtney Kardashian one, like choosing things. Those are like off the top of my head kind of thing, and those are when I hear the sound and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna do that tonight. But you'll notice a difference, like I'll be in like a full face of makeup for like my recs or my reviews, and then those I'll be in like my PJs. So, and like you're absolutely right, like it has to be content you like to make, because the videos that like did bad for me, I would say, were like the ones I was just like, I'm doing this for other people, and like it's not for me. So it's a lot of work. It's like having a full-time job with another full-time job, because not only do you want to make content that you love, you obviously you want them to reach audiences. Like you want people to be like, hey, I love this book so much that I want you to read this book. So it's rough. So
like I think we were talking about this on the live. There's a lot of pressure to read and to like keep reading. And like I do this where I have read 56 books this year already. And I've gone over my Goodreads goal, which I set it only to 50 because I'm going to be in school. There's no like actual like quarantine where I'm like not on campus. Like I live on campus now again and stuff, and I'm like actively going to classes and stuff. And I still went over my goal 3 months in. And so it's like, but that's just how, that's my personality and stuff, is I'm that kind of person who has to like keep getting content and reading and stuff. And, but then there's also this pressure to like, you have to read this book. You have to read this book. And you have to, especially with like all the new releases coming out. It's like so hard just to keep up with new releases. And then for like me, I'm catching up with all the YA that I haven't read before. Like this is all YA.
Oh my God.
Shelf. So this whole side right here, these 2 shelves are my TBR. I've read all of this, except this like pile is like my new books that I just got this weekend. Yeah,
a lot of it's catch up too, because like there's some books that people recommend to you that have been out for years, and you're like, yeah, I haven't read it, and you have to either decide to read the books that are good and the years published, or the books that are being released right now. It's like a toss-up between the two, and you have to kind of like balance either deciding forget about the old stuff and you miss out on series that are so good and people love, but because you're trying to catch up with today's like, you know, updated book reading list or whatever, it's hard. Most of these books on my shelf I have not touched, but you know,
my bookshelf is like literally what people have gifted me because I'm broke. Like I literally, my format was literally just like recommending Kindle books. I remember one of the first comments I got was just like, people use the Kindle, and I was like, I do, because your girl is broke and has Kindle Unlimited, and that's like the best gift and like subscription I could like vouch for. Yeah, and, like, and so and like, and it's sorry, and it's
go.
And it's like so funny because like when you say like old and new books, like for me, I've been reading like new adult, like contemporary romances since like 2014, right? So like for example, Off Campus is blowing up right now. I read that back in 2016. Like
you're live, you were talking about that. You were talking about how you read it like when it first came out and stuff, and I was like, what a time I mean, I'm not that old. I'm not that young.
You probably old though. Yeah.
But also not like in the older side of TikTok. I'm like in that middle where like I don't fit in with like the YA teenage kids. I'm a new adult is what I am. I'm 20 years old. So like I just turned 22. So it's like I don't have that like experience of like growing up reading these books that have like been out for years, but I also like the books coming out now aren't the books that like I grew up reading. So like I'm in that between where I have to play catch up with the books reading now, coming out now, and also before, because I hadn't been reading for like 6 years.
Yeah,
and it's
right.
Especially now that I want to read smut, purely smut.
And there's so much out there, because like
so much.
It's a lot.
I don't know if you follow her too, but it's Fit Teacher Rachel.
Yeah, we just became mutuals, I think, like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
so
she's the one who I like first started following, and then that's how I found your account, was like the recommended under. But yeah, it's just like and like I noticed that like these books that I'm reading are being recommended by people who are way older than me, like 3 to 4 or 5 years older than me.
Yeah,
I'm still like, I just feel so happy that I found this like community of like smutty readers, like aren't ashamed to be smutty readers, because let's be honest, romance readers are like shamed in the book world, and like you're a romance reader, you're not a real reader. Like, bitch, do you know how many books I've read this year? Like 75% of my 56 books I read are pure butt.
Yeah.
Like
and like it's so funny because like, okay, so Off Campus I read in 2016 because like I was 22. I was going through like the worst breakup of my life. I wasn't a reader. Like I've always been a reader, and then I got to college and I was like, I have other things to do in college, you know? So I went through the worst breakup of my life in 2016, and I was like, I need to do something like not so like terrible for my body, like not go out all the time and not party all the time and forget about this heartbreak. I was like, I need to do something that I love. And I'm kind of a homebody, you know? So I was just like, maybe I should try to get back into reading. And when I tell you, I literally went to, like, it was Barnes and Nobles. I went to my local one. I went to Arizona State, which is like the university I went to, that Barnes and Nobles. And I saw the ab cover of The Deal. Did not even read the blurb, and I was like, cool, sick, I'm gonna get it. Like, I literally was like, I just saw abs, and I was like, sick, I'm gonna get it. And then I also saw like Wall of Winnipeg and Me, which is like the other book that I like would die for. And I was like, cool, a guy holding a helmet. I was like, I'm gonna get it. I was like, I just need like really good, like, I was just like, I just need romance in my life because I don't believe in love right now. And so I read The Deal in like one sitting. I was like 22. I read it in one sitting. I was like, I believe in love again. I was like, I want what Garrett and Wellesley have. I was just like, why did I get the hot hockey captain that falls for me so I can tutor him? Like, you know what I mean? So it's a lot of catching up. Like, I feel pressure now because I see people recommending fantasy and YA, and I'm just like, YA is not what it used to be when I was growing up. Like, I'm 28. YA for me was like straight, like my YA was Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, like I can't even remember, like I guess Twilight, like that was my YA. And the Hush Hush series, which like I think people should always read because I love that fantasy series. But like YA for like the generation now is like ACOTAR. And when I read ACOTAR, I was like, this is completely like, I was like, this is like borderline new adult, but it's technically still what YA.
Now considered an adult fantasy book. So like at Barnes and Noble and stuff, it's, you only find it now in adult fantasy. You find old covers in YA, but the new covers and stuff, it's like in Bookmaster. If you like search it up, it's like it's registered as like adult. It's just fantasy, which is what they call
right.
it.
Because bookstores still don't have new adult as like a proper
Yeah,
section.
which I think we need a new adult section because that is an industry that like new adult is like the grasp of like from like 18 to still like 25, 26 is where the new adult range is like they're still pretty like wanting to read YA, but they're not wanting to have to read about 16, 17-year-olds. They're wanting to read about people in their like becoming 20s, like early 20s. People are wanting to read about that. And there's book, even like I'll harp on Barnes and Noble, even though I worked there, like it's something that they need, like even just one shelf of like a new adult, just one shelf I think would help solve the ACOTAR problem, solve the JLA problem. I was in my local Barnes and Noble the other day, and From Blood and Ash was in the YA section, and I was like,
well, After was in my Barnes and Noble section, and I was like, After is not YA. I was like, After the series is not YA. And when I saw that, I was like, there's like 13, 14-year-olds should not be reading, well, at least publicly, they should not be reading After.
Yeah.
So it's
this kind of,
it's crazy because like around 2014, yeah, 2014, I was just out of high school, and I started reading again, and I picked up quite a few smutty books, all on my Kindle, of course, never in physical, because wasn't ready for that. And that was like the first time I had like actual adult money, because that's when I got my first job. And I started getting all these books, and I got this book called Beautiful Disaster.
Oh yes, by Jane O'Barr.
Then it like flash forward to like now, and I saw quite a few pages of being like new adult, like books that started like the new adult genre, and Beautiful Disaster was like one of them. And I was just like, wow, like, it's crazy to me that like books didn't really have that in between age gap, and there were so many that fit in. It's like new adult is like college or just out of college, basically.
Right. Yeah. I would even argue that I would say like, honestly, for me, I feel like new adult is like 30s as well. Like not like late 30s, but like I would say it would be like from 18 to like 32, because there's some books that I read that I'm just like, oh, like I would consider this new adult, even though the characters are like 30, like in their 30s kind of thing. And like you're
still like figuring it out.
I mean, listen, I'm 28 and I'm still figuring it out. Like, I know like most people on TikTok are like, oh my God, you're 28. And like that, to them, they're just like, there's no life after 25. Like, I'm just like, look, I'm thriving. Like, I'm here. Like, and people are like, I thought you were like a sophomore in college. I'm like, thank you so much. But no, like, that's my skincare routine and my genetics, I think. But like, I am, I'm 28 and like, I'm still discovering books, and I've been in like the romance world for so long. I'm still discovering books that like came out in like 2012, and I'm just like, okay, I need to read this book. And then on top of that, I'm discovering new books by new authors because like thank God for TikTok, I have authors reach out to me and they're just like, hey, you should read this book, and then they have friends and then they're like, you should read my friends' books, and I'm just like, oh my God, my TBR is never ending. But you're right, like I wish bookstores and like even like Amazon, for example, would have like, you know, a more prominent new adult section, because I think it's really important because new adult kind of shapes, like, I wouldn't say like shapes the adult romance world, but it's much more like welcoming, and it's easier to like start reading new adult than diving right into like something I would consider adult romance.
Transition phase. It's that transition phase that everybody goes through. I'm going through that new adult transition.
Right.
Yeah, I love to read YA and stuff, but that's not the first thing I'm reaching for. The first thing I'm reaching for is people my age, people who, and I feel like in this rising market of like Gen Z becoming older and stuff, there is this need for that, and like authors are filling that now. You see a lot of indie authors are new adult authors, and they're becoming very popular. JLA, you have so many of these rising books that aren't really YA but aren't really adult fantasy,
Right.
but they're put into YA or adult fantasy, and you're like, they don't really belong in either of those things. It's more of a blend of, well, not adult fantasy, but like even just adult, like Red, White, and Royal Blue is a new adult book. It is
No, yeah.
and or like Crescent City is a new adult book. Like Akatar is a new adult book. I can't. Those are the ones I can think off the top of my head because I'm literally looking at them behind my screen.
I definitely think that like in the past year, maybe 2 years, especially with like quarantine that happened, the boom and the need for a new adult to be an actual section has heightened so much. And I think that that boom has happened so quickly, and it's become like a powerhouse in the sense like book talk has such an influence that publishers are starting to like, take notice, and they're starting to push out like new adult, and they're starting to use that term a lot more, which is really good because like it's there, it's needed. It's like, you know,
it also helps with parents
yeah,
shopping for kids. I always say when I worked at Barnes and Noble and stuff, I had parents asking about like Akatar and Red, White, and Royal Blue, and are these safe for my children? And they're like, my children are like 15 and stuff, and I'm like, you're wanting Red, White, and Royal Blue for your 15-year-old? Like, I can't judge a kid for reading a book and stuff. Like, I have no authority over that. But like a parent who I don't think a parent would appreciate, like, I wouldn't try to sell a book to them just to sell the book. Like, more morally, like, that parent is probably thinking this book cover is nice and cute and stuff.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's hella spicy.
Yeah. It's like Penelope Douglas. Like her books are very like, it's like a nice book cover. And then like if you read Penelope Douglas, like it is
Punk 57, like
that's actually the one Penelope Douglas book I haven't read because it's based in high school, and I'm like not really see, like that's the thing with me. Like I'm in my older 20s. And like I don't really read high school romances. Like and people like beg me like, please do a high school romance rec. Like I did one and they're like, please do part 2. And I'm always like, guys, like I get war flashbacks because I had the worst high school experiences. So when I read high school books, I'm just like, okay, because like it's like the kids that they describe in high school shouldn't be in high school. I'm just like, okay, you're doing like very, very adult things.
That's one of my things I was going to ask you is, how do you feel about authors who write like smut about kids who are 17, 18? Like, how do you feel about that personally? Because like I just read a reverse harem series, and it was like, I didn't realize that it was like
sainthood.
Yeah,
because it's on my TBR. It's on my TBR, and people have been begging me to read it. They're like, we need your opinion on this. So,
and I do not know how I feel about it. first 2 books were great. The third book just went downhill. I was just like, okay, I see where you were going with this. I literally got to the epilogue and just skipped the epilogue. And then like they had like the bonus epilogue on Kindle. It was like the Kindle Unlimited has the whole like just one book and it's all 3 stories. It's like 779 pages.
Right.
I got to the bonus epilogue and I just didn't even read it. I was like, I'm done with this series.
That's happened to me. I've done that before.
The smut was good. But how do you feel about that? Because I felt a little icky when I found out that one of them was 17 and I was like, oh.
So it's funny because like so like there's 2 ways I think about it, right? When it comes to age gap romances, and this is where people are like, is she okay? So age gap romances, I have one that I always recommend. Welcome to the Dark Side. The girl is 17. It's by Gianna Darling. I always recommend it. It's the Fallen Men series. I've shoved it down all my followers' throats like since I started Book Talk because it's fantastic. It's Motorcycle Club, it's smutty, found family, right? One of my favorite books, and also the fan favorite book, The Girl is 17.
Who did you say was the author?
Gianna Darling.
Okay.
I'll just yeah. I think you'll really like it. The Girl is 17. My thing is, when it comes to like age gap, I don't do grooming. Like grooming is a hard no for me. Like I tend to especially with age gap, I try to like skim the book and see like what's it about. This one, The Girl was 17, the guy is like 36. It's in Canada. So I was like, I looked at the legal age and I was like, okay, the legal age of consent in Canada is 17. And they make it a point in the book. And I was like comfortable enough to read this book. And it turned out to be a very beautiful love story, no grooming, whatever. But when it comes to high schoolers, like having like intense like smutty scenes and like doing all this shit, I'm just like, yo, this is not an episode of Euphoria. And like the thing with high school romances is it's targeted towards high school audiences. So like when high school kids are just like, oh, I want to read like Punk 57, for example, I'm just like, Punk 57 I feel like is more targeted towards 20-year-olds and not like young like high schoolers. Like I wouldn't, like if I read Punk 57 in high school, my parents would not be okay with that. So it's like, for me, it's just like, I don't, like that's the thing with new adult, like when it has like new adult high school thing, I'm just like, oh God, like why couldn't you just make them in college? Like I'm even okay with like senior year. I can do senior year. I was like, everyone is 18, everyone's about to graduate. But when people are like sophomores and juniors and sometimes even freshmen, I'm just like, oh my God, like what, why is this okay?
Freshman is like 14 too. Like
14. And one of the most popular, I would say, new adult books, and it's age gap, and that's the one I was talking about. I'm not really fond of it, is the Off Balance series. The girl is 14, 15, and she starts having a relationship with her 30-year-old coach. And it's so popular. Like it's a new adult series that's like, it's almost everywhere. Like it's like popular on Goodreads, popular on TikTok, popular on Instagram. And when people are asking me, so like, hey, how could you not read that series? I'm just like, I'm not comfortable because like in my mind, like I went to law school and I saw what grooming is. And I was just like, that's like reaching like grooming territories. Not to say I don't read student teacher romances, but I don't read them when they're like that young.
Yeah.
So it's a little,
there's a difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference. And I always tell people, I'm not going to judge you for what you read. I'm not telling you not to read it. Like you said, that's not my place. Like that's never going to be my place. But I'm just not comfortable with that. Because I think of, like, for example, like I have a little brother. So I think of like him doing that with like a teacher of his, and I'd be like, hell no. Like we'd go to war. So
interesting that, like, I understand if it's an author who was near that age when they were writing it, I think that's different. But like there are some authors who are very much older than the age that they're writing, and the people that they're writing about are minors. They're minors. They're writing sex scenes about minors, and you're like, where does it toe the line of like okay to write? Like when does it become like, oh, it's just an age versus like there's something more to this, where why do you have to have them a minor? Why can't you just age them up to be 18? Why can't you
right.
18, 19? Like if there's an age gap and they're 18, 19, I think that's fine. But when it's like 16, 17, and there's an age gap relationship, I feel uncomfortable because I'm like, why is that person, like the older person, in a relationship with a minor?
Yeah, that's like the only book is Welcome to the Dark Side, where I was like, I genuinely had to pause, and I was like, am I about to read a book that is a 17-year-old and a 30 plus year old man? Like, am I really about to do this? And like, I did read it. I'm so glad I did, because it became one of my favorite books. But like all her other books, they're older. So I was like, is this a pattern, or is this like, like, or is this like just one off? And it was a one off, because I would have been uncomfortable if the author kept doing like 17-year-olds and like 30-year-olds, But I don't think that's it. That's a difficult question, because like I personally believe that like I mean, it's like writing is an art, right? So like, and it's also fiction, and like we embrace that. But like a part of me, like I get really nervous, because I know for a fact that I do have people who follow me who are in high school, even when I put the 18 plus warning, right? Like TikTok, like, I mean, the community guidelines are literally written for children. Like the amount of times like me or a fellow creator has been hit with like the community guidelines, and you're like, it's written off, and I read them and I'm just like, okay, but why am I getting written off? It's hard. But I don't know. I think the reason I don't like high school romances so much is because of the age, because I'm just like, you shouldn't be doing like basically like dom sub stuff in high school. Like when I read stuff like that, I'm just like, what are you doing? Like that didn't cross my mind in high. I don't know what Gen Z is doing in high school, but like that didn't cross my mind in high school.
It's crazy because like, so I was homeschooled for middle school. I did not go to middle school at all. And so when I went into high school, I had a very narrow, tiny view of what high school was going to be, to the point where all I had to go on was movies that I watched. And movies are not very good representation of what high school is.
No.
So I went to high school looking out for the mean girl, looking out for the guy who was going to be the love of my life. I literally went into high school looking for that. And it didn't turn out to be like that. But then like I'm talking to all these my friends at that time, and like they, conversation comes up about things that they are doing or things that they're going out to doing, and I'm just like, dude, you're a creator. What are you? And they're like, oh yeah, we've been doing this since like middle school. And I'm just like, what kind of stuff were you guys doing in middle school? Like, I'm confused. This is what we're doing. I am so glad I did not go to middle school with you guys.
Yeah, I went to like a rich like private school out here, because I'm in LA, and my private school, I was not the rich kid. I was like on scholarship, and like and it's so funny because when people watch the show Euphoria and they went to my high school, we're just like it's so similar. And the fact that like Euphoria is similar to what I witnessed in high school says a lot about like high school culture. And like I think the thing is, like, I don't want to say authors are glorifying like what's done in high school. I just think that like when you read like new adult and like fiction and smut, I think there needs to be like a certain like for example, bully romances, very popular in the new adult world and like in the smutty world, right? There is a very solid line between like bully high school romances and assault. And like sometimes, and by sometimes I mean quite often, authors are starting to cross that line. And that's when I draw the line, and I'm just like, this is not okay. Like that's coercion, that's sexual assault, that's assault. And so if my brain at 28 is having a hard time like crossing that line, imagine what that's doing to teenagers, because teenagers are going to be like, oh, that's okay because it's written.
So that's what I was gonna say, is like this idea of like when you were talking about like the 17 to 30 like age difference, like if they're writing about a 17-year-old, they're gearing towards 17-year-olds, towards their audience. Is what, like, that's what you do, is you write a character for what your audience is gonna be. And so like what you think is like, not, there's gonna be people way younger than 17 reading these books, and like when you're reading this book and they're going to be thinking, oh, this is great, like what would it be like to have like a relationship with a 30 plus year old man, and it's going to be so hot and stuff, and then they can't differentiate between reality and fiction at that age. Like you can't, I even have a hard time doing that. And it's like proven through brain studies that our brains have a hard time with fiction versus reality in our own day-to-day lives. So the fact that children are reading those kinds of books really irks me when it comes to authors and stuff. Like, you can't stop children from reading it,
Yeah.
and you can't stop authors from writing it, but it's that like fine line between like
Yeah. No. It's hard because like I personally, like, I love Gianna. Like the Fallen Men series is definitely not geared towards teenagers. It's very like adult, new adult. That one was like but like when I was saying like the Off Balance series, that one is a straight like 14, 15-year-old, and that one I've seen a lot of teenagers read, and that's having a relationship with your coach. Like, she's a gymnast, it's her coach. That's the premise of the book, and it's like, it's scary. Like, I tend to trigger warn heavily on my page. Like, when someone comments like, hey, what's this book about? I will trigger warn them. I'll be like, hey, this is what the triggers are. If you are like underage, or if you're not okay with those triggers, don't read them, because I don't ever want to influence. And sadly, I probably have influenced minors to read certain books, because I can't, like, I'm not their parent. I can't parent them, and I can't like say like, get off my TikTok, because that's not the case. But I don't know, like, I can't think of authors off the top of my head, but there's definitely certain authors who gear towards teenagers, and those books should not be like anywhere near. When I think teenage books, I think of like, I don't know, like, I don't really read YA, to be quite honest, but I definitely don't think Red, White, and Royal Blue is a teenage book. Do I think it's great representation? Hell yeah. Finally, we got like a good LGBTQ+ book that everyone can enjoy, and it's nothing too tragic, and like, it's a happy love story, because that's great. But I don't think teenagers should be reading these books. And that's where it gets like really messy on like social platforms, because I've seen the comments of like teens and like minors commenting me like, oh, I'm just going to ignore the 18+. And I'm just like, do not ignore the 18+. Like, it's there for a reason. Like, and Gen Z is very public with what they consume. And it's just like, you don't realize that like, sometimes you're giving attention to the wrong thing. Like, sometimes you need to, like, the reason that like adults like me are telling you like, hey, this is 18+, this is a dark romance, this is like, this is meant for people who are like maybe a little bit more advanced in their like romance reading career, whatever you want to call it. Like, pay attention to that, because I'm trying to warn you here. I don't want you to like consume something. Like, my dark romance video blew up. It's one of the videos that blew up. And when I tell you I recommended very, very dark romances, I said it. I said it in the video. I was like, these are not like, oh, like, I don't know, like dark elements. These are like dark romances. Like, one of them is literally like a Harley Quinn and Joker retelling, and like in a new adult way. And I was like, that's not like your little tiny brain that I want to like.
Can you send me this book?
Yes, I totally can. It's so good.
You just see my mind turning, like, be like,
I do. It's okay. So good. Like, I was reading it and I was like, why am I attracted to a serial killer? Like, I was like, why am I attracted to like a dynamic duo that like kills together? I was like, am I okay? When I read dark romances, mostly I like stop and I'm just like, am I good? Like, what is it about me that's attracted to these dark men? Like, even when I read ACOTAR, because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I mean, the review was pretty popular. I completely was like, the first book is terrible. I was like, I hate this book. All my comments were like, girl, just wait till a second. I was like, you all better be right, because I swear to God. Read the second book and I was like, why am I attracted to Batman? Like, why? And like, the one I'm most attracted to is the one who's the murderer. Like, it's Azrael. Like, it's not Cassian, who's just like, woo, look at me, I'm like hot and like I protect people. It's not Rysad, who's like the freaking king. I am attracted to the dark one, who has like shadows crawling around him and probably tortured his family, as he should. But like, I was just like, why am I attracted to the dark person? Like, that's but I have to tell my little ones who follow me, I'm just like, please don't read these books.
You're speaking a little too loud to the crowd here. I feel a little called out, ma'am.
I always, like, anytime I'll read a book series, I always end up falling for the most messed up one. And I'm just like, what is wrong with me that I fall for the most messed up person?
Okay, I think we are like so desensitized to that stuff because of like media and stuff. But I also think it's always because authors make the darkest ones, the most complicated, and have the most tragic stories. And we are addicted to tragedy. Readers are addicted to tragedy. Tragedy is heroin for readers. I will say it.
No, it is.
Tragedy
Inject it
heroin
in my
for
brains.
readers.
When I tell you, like, okay, so Song of Achilles, the amount of time before I joined, I got TikTok in March, as everyone did when the pandemic started, okay? I didn't start book talk till just like posting myself till December. I have seen at that point millions of videos on Song of Achilles. I didn't read Song of Achilles till January. Okay, because I was just like, okay. I skimmed it at first. I was just like, I'm scared. Like everyone is crying over this book. Like even like my series, like baddest bitches cry over this. I was just like, I've seen the baddest bitches cry over this book. I'm just like, I'm really scared. Also, like Pauline traumatized me because I was friends with her at that time, and she's just like, Tish, you're not ready for this book. Like I will never read A Little Life because of her. Like the way that bitch cried.
Never.
She was texting me sobbing, and I was like, I'm never reading this book. I was like, I cannot read this book. And it was the same for Song of Achilles. She's like, you're not ready for this. I finally picked it up. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a big girl and I'm gonna do it, right? When I tell you that book destroyed me and traumatized me, like I still cannot pick it up, but it's heroin. Like I think about it all the time. I'm like, inject me. Anytime I see an edit of Song of Achilles, I'm like, inject it into my brains. Like
I cry whenever I see fan art. I will bawl for hours. Like I don't even like. I just see one piece of fan art and I will bawl my eyes out for the rest of the day.
There was an edit on my For You page last night at 3 a.m. for Song of Achilles, and I got teary. Like I literally went to bed teary-eyed. I was just like, I can't do this. Like I was that book like traumatized me. And then like I made the mistake of reading Ravenhood series by Kate Stewart and Song of Achilles back to back, and that series is also emotional and traumatizing, and Song of Achilles, and I was a zombie for like 2 to 3 weeks after. Like Chris Evans, well, not Chris Evans, that's a bad example. Like a hot model could have hit on me, and I would have just been like, I'm not here right now. Like I am in like I am not here right now. Like I am in Song of Achilles land and like tragedy romance land right now. So
no, wait, no, that's not bad.
No, like at any moment, if Chris Evans hits on me, that's it. Like I'm quitting. We're getting married. Like that's it. Like that's like if I want like Henry Cavill to be Cassian, but like he's not going to because he's the Witcher. But in my mind, Henry Cavill is like he's every character.
Cavill is every man.
Every man.
I can't see him as Cassian though. I
What?
so so I've been
It's
thinking about it, and I just don't see him as Cassian. I like when I think of Henry, his like work and stuff, he's never that like outgoing guy. Like
No, I would see him as Azrael. Like if
yeah,
you were
I
to
would
cast
see him like as an Azrael or as like a Reese, but I can see him as like a Rowan. I could see him as
You
like
guys
a
can't
Rowan.
take him from me, okay? No. But I get what you mean. I do get what you mean. He's more of like the strong, the stoic, the like, you know.
But he's like, but I'll be honest. The moment like a book character, since I noticed Henry Cavill is like dark hair, light eyes, and chiseled. It's Henry Cavill in different fonts.
yeah.
Like it will be Henry Cavill in his 20s. It will be Henry Cavill in his 30s. Like it will be Henry Cavill in his 40s and 50s. That hasn't happened yet. And the moment for me when a character's blonde, I'll be like Chris Evans in Captain America. Like that's it. Like those are the only two men that go through my mind at all times. So
It's funny because
I don't know what it is, but as soon as they put on like a superhero suit, it's just like, damn.
Girl, the way I binge watch Marvel, and I'm just like, I do watch it for the plot, don't get me wrong, but the Captain America trilogy, I'm just like, do I pay attention to Chris Evans or do I pay attention to Sebastian Stan? I'm like, which one?
have you been watching Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Girl, I was watching it right before this. I caught up on the new episode and I was like, I'm Sebastian Stan, like Bucky Barnes just sleeping on the couch. I was like, a man, like a soft man. Like I love him so much.
Bucky Barnes in a tight shirt.
Oh my god. Those dude, I read Bucky Barnes fan fiction. I'll say it. Like
His arm, his metal arm is his actual arm. So whenever you see his metal arm, it's just like a latex
he got
covering on top of it. And I'm just like you think about it and you're just like, oh.
It's so
Dude,
I'm just
and,
like
and it helps that he's like funny. He's like so funny and like, you know, lighthearted and sweet. And like you look at the interviews, because I'm addicted to watching those interview videos. And I'm just like, damn, like why are you like, I'm trying to find anything about you that I can humble you and
Yeah.
nothing.
Nothing.
You know, and it's crazy because like you know, a lot of people also go for Chris Hemsworth, which love him too. You know, the accent, it does it for me, and you know, and you know, when they the Norton show, they did
Oh
like
yeah.
and like they had all the ladies there from like Ghostbusters, the new one, and you know how he was there, and like Melissa McCarthy was just like talking about it, and it's just like, man, like, oh, you know, because Hemsworth is on, and all the girls sigh, and they're just like, oh yeah, he's great, like, and it's to the point where like you wish something about him would be wrong.
Wrong. Yeah.
Girl, like ain't nothing wrong, and they're all talking about like, man, and he's funny, like a kid who had to learn how to be funny to survive high school. I'm like, damn, that's like the best type. Those are the ones. Those are the ones. And like
the issue is we never paid attention to these guys in high school because they weren't hot back in high school. They got hot.
We're not hot, but like now it's kind of like, damn.
Now it's like it's like everyone goes through like, it's always the one kid you never paid attention to in high school that becomes like the hot movie star. You're just like, I could have dated him. Like he could have been the one. So
there was this guy when I went to elementary school with. He like would always follow me around. He would always be with me. I'm not gonna say his name in case he ever finds this. Like he would always follow me, and like sometimes during recess I would spend it in the library because I just didn't want to be out there, and he would just go and sit with me. I ended up leaving because I ended up being homeschooled for middle school, and then nothing. I ended up reconnecting with one of my friends that went there because it was like a kindergarten through high school, and I'm like, oh, so how is everybody? So I followed her on Instagram. Following her, I found him, and oh my gosh, he looked unbelievable. And like, I swear I was gonna be bold enough to like hit him up,
slide into those DMs.
Up with you, like, how you been? Do you remember me? Like, it's just like that thing of like spend the time away, because like straight up, he was the sweetest kid, so soft, so nice, and I could have pictured it back then that maybe he would have like become gay, because he was like one of those like they're cuter, like softer, more reserved kind of guys. But then now I'm like, whoa. And it's so crazy to me because it's just like, I could have had you before anybody else, and I didn't. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it happens. Like, I really think about it because, like, anytime you hear these celeb men talk, they're like, oh, but I didn't get hit on in high school. And I'm just like,
why?
So that's the other thing. I'm like, but why? Like, what was wrong with you in high school that you didn't get hit on? Because they still, like, you see them in high school and you're like, okay, you were still like kind of attractive. And then I was just like, so what was wrong with you in high school? And then like now they're like these demigods that like we literally base like fictional characters off of. Like the amount of edits I see of like these, like all these hot actors as like our favorite characters is like astronomical. So I get it. It's hard. Like, I mean, the Avatar TV show, when that was announced, that was my whole feed for a long time. And I was just like, well, I was like, am I going to watch it? Hell yeah. But am I going to be like analyzing it? No, because I am not a part of that fandom. But I'm going to leave that all to you guys because.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that.
I am very against books turning into TV shows. I'm very anti. Like anytime anyone asks me what book series you would want into a TV show, I say none of them, because like even Harry Potter, like if you read Harry Potter, so much was left out in the movies, and I love those movies. Like those movies are childhood. I watch them Halloween through Christmas, but like there's so much that's left out. But like now, for example, like if the Off-Campus series was like taken into production, I would be so scared. I would be like, they are gonna mess this up.
It needs to be a TV show. I think books need to be shows. The amount of content that goes into books, I always feel like a book should be, unless it's like a standalone book, maybe a movie. But like I always feel like books that are like these big series books need to be TV shows, because there's so much content in them that you're like, this needs to be a TV show. Like Bridgerton is a TV show now, but so much is left out of Bridgerton.
But it was so good.
It was so good, so beautifully done, and the fact that they added like POC characters and stuff when in the book there's not even like POC characters, and they added that whole plot line into this, into the TV show, that was great, amazing. But there was so much left out of the book, and like, but I appreciated that better because I liked the TV show more than I liked the book.
Yeah, I think the thing is what I say, if my favorite like books were to be turned into series, it has to be like loosely based off of it, because like I'm trying to think of like, okay, so Colleen Hoover is doing It Ends With Us, and that's one of my favorite books ever. I think everyone should read that book, even though it's like romance new adult based, because it really makes you think. But I'm scared because I love, and it's a very, very popular book talk book as well.
Yeah, it really has blown up recently on Book Talk. Like a lot of people are reading it right now.
A lot of people are reading it, and like I have read Colleen Hoover once again from a really long time ago, and like I'm so excited because she's like if you follow Colleen on TikTok, she's like also like a great person. Like she's chaotic. I love everything about her.
It's really funny.
But, like, yeah, and I'm so scared for that movie because like the characters are so dear to me that like I don't want them to mess it up. You know what I mean? Because like I have a way of looking at that book, and like obviously other people have a way of looking at that book, and then like what the production teams and stuff are doing are going to be like completely different, which is why I think the ACOTAR fandom like kind of freaked out, as they should. I would also freak out. That fandom is like, you guys low-key cult mentality. I love y'all, but like
I'm not even a part of it anymore. I hate it because of how culty it is. I'm not even a part of the fandom anymore. Like I don't think I ever was honestly a part. Maybe like in October, November, but then I really started to distance myself because it was just toxic. The ACOTAR fandom is so toxic. Like Throne of Glass fandom is really like okay, but like the ACOTAR fandom is
the ACOTAR fandom is insane. Like we're insane, and it's either like insanity to where like you're high functioning insanity, or like you're like, I'm going to attack every single person I see. It's on site mentality.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, man, I just like it, and that's it. Leave me alone.
Yeah, like when I posted my ACOTAR review, because once again, ACOTAR was shoved down my throat. Like everyone was like, you need to read this. I want your opinion, Tish, because like you aren't like you like fantasy, but you're not like a fantasy reader. So I want to see your opinion on this. So I was like, okay, I'll read it. Obviously I didn't like the first book. I was very honest about that in my review. I even said it. I was like, I'm really scared to post this review because I feel like I'm going to be attacked. I was attacked. Like I had to delete so many comments because I was just like, whoa, let's like take it down a notch. Like books are subjective. I'm not saying I'm trashing the whole series. I'm saying I didn't like the first book. And there were like some nice people were like, please like read the second. You'll love the second. But other people were just like, no one likes the first book. Of course, like you wouldn't like the first book. Like look at what your platform is. And I was just like, pause. Like I was like, let's breathe. Like let's take a breather together. It was scary. And so when I posted the second review, I was like, oh, thank God I like the second book, because I was not ready to be like attacked again. So
yeah.
And I know there's like problems with like, you know, a lot of people tagged me and like Sarah J Maas, like how she's a problematic author, because like I've always been like very vocal about like problematic authors and where I stand. And I don't know much about Sarah J Maas. I've only been tagged in like videos, and I haven't done my own research, and people were talking about like diversity in the books, and I was like, guys, I don't know how to tell you, like I'm not a part of this fandom, and you're asking like the wrong person. I can't have opinions on this because like I don't know, maybe like go to like one of the fantasy readers who could like talk to you about this stuff. So it's just like I'm new. I'm definitely not in the fandom, but I'm definitely going to finish the book series off because I do like it thus far. But like fandoms can be very, very toxic, like very toxic. And I tend to stay away from that because I'd rather just like be on the outside and like promote something and be like, hi, this is nice, you should read it. And like I don't like posting negative on like anyone's platform.
Yeah. I definitely think there's this pressure for you to like every single book you see on Book Talk. Like there is this immense pressure that if a book is popular, you cannot dislike it. And I saw a I don't even remember his name. I saw the video, liked it, kept scrolling. I meant to follow him, but it was this guy, and he was talking about Children of Blood and Bone. It's a very popular YA series, and he's like, I hated this book. The plot was inconsistent, like, and people like dissed him so much in the comments, and he was like, it's my personal opinion, like, this is something that I like, yes, this was an author of color and stuff, but like, and they were attacking him for being like, even though he was a person of color, they were attacking him for hating on a person of color author. And he's like, guys, you can not like a book because of the book itself. Like, there's this whole idea in TikTok that you have to like every single book you read and stuff, or you have to hate every single book that Book Talk hates. And like, I think there's a difference where like, me, I read ACOTAR not for plot, not for
Me.
I don't
You're
read
me.
it for I don't read it to
I read it for
necessarily
the smut.
enrich myself. I don't read it to like enrich myself. I like to enrich myself and like to make me feel good. I read like Song of Achilles. They both die in the end. Like I read like other stuff for like to actually like promote and read and stuff. But like there's some people who are like, "Oh, you like to read ACOTAR? Like that's so you're uncultured." And I'm like, "Ugh, I read smut for a living now. Like you really try to diss me
even that, like I have always said, like on my lives, on my page, like when someone recommends a book to me and I personally don't like it, I always comment back like, hey, so sorry, I don't like that book, so glad you enjoyed it. And they can take that one or two ways. Sometimes they take it, most of the time they take it positively, like, okay, that's fine. Other times they're like, why didn't you like that book? And I always have to remind people that books are subjective. Like you don't need to give every book 4 to 5 stars. Okay. Like it is okay to be an honest reviewer. I know this because authors who reach out to me, like even like popular authors, the moment I'm like, oh, I'm reading your book. They literally write back. They're like, I'm so nervous. And I'm just like, why are you nervous? And like, cause you're an honest reviewer. Like you'll say what's on your mind if you don't like it, or you do like it. Mm-hmm. And like I always say, like, reviews are for yourself. They're not for the author. They're not for the fandom. Like they're for yourself. Like if you like that book, thank God. If you didn't like that book, also like great, like you read it, moving on kind of thing. But like there's so much pressure. I especially feel like there's a lot of pressure in like the romance book world because there's certain books that are very, very popular. And if you don't like those books, that means you don't have
Den of Vipers.
Taste. Yeah, I fucking hated Den. Sorry,
it's okay. We hate it here. Grace hasn't even read it. I literally
don't read it. Yeah, like Grace, don't read it.
I that book. And look, like that's not to say that I'm not I can't do certain things, but just I need romance and I need connection. If there's no connection,
when I read smut, there needs to be at least 2% plot of like a romance in the background. I need that. I need that like low key, like little even the tiniest bit of build up. Like I need like the whole like angsty, like a will we won't me kind of thing. Like I need that. Like Den of Vipers, I don't ever I'm known not to like I never DNF. Like it's very rare for me to DNF. Like when I start, I finish. Den of Vipers, I DNF'd. I was just
really?
I was just like, I'm not.
I finished it. I had to force myself to finish it. I was like, I have to know, like, that even with Sainthood, like, I forced myself to finish it, but I did not read the extra epilogue or anything. But like, I'm not shaming you if you like it. I am not like I think the reason my problem with Den of Vipers was there was a lot of consent issues.
That was mine too.
That was where I was kind of like, there was a lot of blurring between the lines where I'm like, and especially when there's young readers reading those too, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, I had a 15-year-old. Yeah. Like I follow a 15-year-old, I'm not saying who, but I do follow a 15-year-old book talker. I didn't know she was 15 until I saw like a get to know me video. Love her, such a sweetheart. Someone sent her Den of Vipers and I was like, what? And it was another fellow book talker and I was like, in what world? Like I was like, is that okay? I was like, Den of Vipers is something you should not be reading, you should not be consuming. Personally, for me, Den of Vipers, I was just like, I get attacked. I mean, not attacked, but people are just like shocked I didn't like it. And I'm just like, it's okay for me to not like a book. It's okay for you. Oh my God, your picture just gone.
I just saw that. Yeah, just leave it. It's fine. It's fine.
But like, that was so funny. But like, Den of Vipers like is one of those books that like is shoved down people's throats.
Yeah.
So it's like it's hard because like I didn't like it, and so people were like, oh, why is this not on your like why is this not on your like smutty rec video, or like why is this not on your like dark rec videos, or um like there's so many times I get like people like will comment like why, and I'll tell them, I'm like, oh, because I didn't like it, and they're so shocked that I didn't like it. But I always tell people, like, when I rec books and people comment back like, hey, I didn't like that book, I respect that. I'm like, I don't expect everyone to like that book, because people forget, because books really are subjective, but because our opinions are so strong, we make it objective. We're just like, okay, you need to like this book, you need to hate this book. And I don't go like towards that trend. Like, I will read whatever book, and if I like it, I like it, and if you hate it, you hate it, kind of thing. So, and I respect that. So
Yeah, because like there's this huge thing of people forgetting, like, there is no universal key of a book that goes along with everybody. I mean, if that were the case, we would not have a different variety of books to read from. We read different types of books and different types of stories because not everybody likes the same thing.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
I have a
for sure
question.
don't.
I have a
Yes.
question for you now. Since we kind of went through what kind of things we don't like in romance books, what would you say is like your recipe for the perfect romance book?
Ooh, I would say, God, there's like so I like have so many favorite like tropes and genres, but I have to say my favorite kind of romance book is like the one where there's a lot of like pining. Like there's like it I love romance books with like build up. Like I love that build up to that like moment where they finally get together. Like, but I also like the darker romance books. Like I would say like my favorite kind of books are like mafia books, because like they're kind of like it's like they're like forced together because of their like families, but like they fall for each other because they get to know each other. And I really appreciate books like that, like the love stories that like really make you like you're basically like, please just like just get together. Those are like my favorite kind of like love stories. And like of course like the smut adds to it, but like when it's just like there's like a moment in time where you know that like they're pining after each other but they can't be together because of like this reason. I love those kind of romances. So
I think that's why mafia romances, especially the arranged marriage mafia romances, are so popular, because it's the enemies to lovers, but it's that forced love, like the forced thing where like you have to deal with this person for the rest of your life. I mean, some people view marriage as the rest of your life. I don't give
right.
a fuck, um, but like that like thing where like you're finally accepting your partner and you've fallen in love with your partner. I think that's like, I think there's this like negative connotations with like arranged marriages and stuff, and like especially since a lot of cultures have that thing where like an arranged marriage where parents will set up an arranged marriage, and like in a lot of cultures it's viewed from other cultures, from Western cultures, as very negative and stuff, but it can bring sometimes beautiful things. And like there are people,
Right.
yeah, sometimes people don't end up happy, but then there are a lot of people who end up very happy in their arranged marriage and stuff. And I'm like, I noticed like a lot of people will like love those arranged marriage books, but then like when they see in the reality, they're like, oh, that's weird. And you're like, hold on, sis.
Yeah.
Hold on, sis.
Yeah.
Fairly
I love arranged marriages and marriage of convenience. Like that's what the trope is called. I love those kind of books. I don't, and like I mean it's very prominent in my culture. Like I'm South Asian, so like that's what I kind of grew up around. Well, my parents are different. They're love marriage, but like I've had like cousins getting into arranged marriages and stuff like that. And like I think it's like such a beautiful thing. It's dating but in a different format, you know. That's what arranged marriage is. But like I love those books, but like a part of me also really likes slow burn. Like I love slow burn, and I think that's really weird for me to say because obviously I'm over here recommending like the really steamy books, and slow burn is like you get one scene and like it's a happy ending. But the slow burn, I love it so much because like the littlest moments are like the biggest things.
Yeah.
Meaningful. Like it could be like a touch of an elbow, and it like it's so intimate, and you're just like so drawn in, and like it really like my favorite love stories are the ones that like I'm so like deeply drawn into. Like I feel like I'm in a different world. Like I love that feeling. It's the books that like really make me believe in love. Like I off the top of my head, like the Deal, Archer's Voice, like the Fallen Men series that I just mentioned, all those books, like Ravenhood, like they made me believe in love. And like it, like those are the best kinds of stories, like the ones that really make you like think and make you believe in stuff. So
because it's like when there's those like intimate moments, it's not like we were talking a little bit about like the female gaze and everything, and how we're females, we look at men and yeah, we can look at their hard rock abs and be like, oh yeah, he looks nice, but the connection isn't there, you know.
right.
We'll appreciate how they look and be like, yeah, but then when we find out more about them, when we find a connection, that's why when we find like these stars, like that they're funny or that they can make us laugh or that they're sweet or that they're romantics at heart, we're just like, oh my gosh, like yes, you know. But it's because we build that connection in them, we think and we see more to them. And so in books, when we start seeing behind the pretty face or behind the tough, rock hard, rock solid like demeanor, when we start seeing little things behind the curtain,
The personality.
yeah, you start getting invested. You start wondering, what does this person think about? What do they go through day to day? And that kind of like helps build like a stronger partnership. And that's kind of like why arranged marriages work, is because like number one, the arranged marriages oftentimes like in real life, I'll go based on real life arranged marriages, it works a lot easier than like, you know, other two people just getting together, because they're coming from the same background, they're coming from the same religion, they're coming from the same types of families, so they have a lot already in common. It's not like they have to learn something completely new about somebody who they cannot connect with. They already have those things to bond with, but now it's about the things about like the rest that makes them person, who they are, how they work, how they struggle. Those things end up building a great partnership that ends up building a great life. You know,
Yeah.
that's arranged marriages are like the soft hidden like yes point, because it's just like that partnership is like perfect. And that's what makes my romances, if the partnership works well together.
Yeah, I think I've always said it, like I like when I do get married, I want to marry my best friend. Like
Oh,
I think like that's the type of like love I want, because at the end of the day, like you want to like you want to sleep next to someone and you want to talk about like the little things along with the big things. And I think those are the types of romances like I lean towards, whether it doesn't matter what trope, whether it's like a forbidden romance, a marriage of convenience, mafia, like dark romance, whatever it is. Like I love the ones that are based in like they have like a type of relationship first that's like very based in like friendship in a way. Now I wouldn't say friends to lovers, but it starts like it kind of starts
yeah.
that way. It's kind of almost like
It's that like that igniting it is the
yeah,
friend.
even it yeah, like even if it's enemies to lovers, like like
It's that moment.
it's that moment where they lean on each other and they have that like connection where they like bond. And like it's almost like, you know, like the trope like touch her and I'll kill you. It's like that, like like I want to kill her, but if you touch her I'll kill you kind of thing. Like
Oh
it's
my
like
God.
yeah, like
Yeah.
those are like my favorite kinds of things, because it's just like I want to protect this person, but I'm also like fighting my connection with that person at
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah.
And
So
so I saw someone a while back on TikTok kind of like break down the enemies to lovers romance. They're like, oh yeah, a lot of people want enemies to lovers romance, but I don't want that. I want enemies to forced to work together, to somewhat understanding each other, to mutual respect, to going through a traumatic event that
yeah.
unearths some pining for each other and attraction that ends up into like mutual pining and then to friendship, to finally get
Yeah.
lovers. It's like a whole stage. It's like you're going through such a high emotion, but there's so many different layers to get to it. And friends to lovers is like that last like final thing, you know,
Yeah.
it brings the relationship
I think
together.
that's so funny because like when you said like I want to marry my best friend, fun fact, this is definitely like a Wattpad story-esque. My best friend and my best friend from elementary school, him and I have been friends since kindergarten. I think 2 summers ago, we promised each other if we weren't married by 30, we would marry each other.
This is such a Wattpad story. I love this. I love this so
My
much.
best friend and I have a pact, a marriage pact, that if neither of us are married or in a relationship by our 30s, we're gonna get together. And like the
Yeah.
funny thing is like we planned on like getting an apartment together after college and stuff, because like we've been best friends forever. Like even though I've moved and everything, he's the constant one person in my life that like even though we don't talk, like it's that friend that like even if you don't talk to like every single day, every month, you're still so close to each other and you can talk about anything together. That's my person. And that's
Yeah.
somebody that I want in a relationship. So it's so funny that like I have that pact. So if Josh is ever seeing this, hi Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Still on. It's just been like 2 years, but definitely I think that's I
Yeah.
just had to add that when you're talking about like marrying your best friend. It's like, yeah,
Man.
I have that pact with my best friend where we're like our parents were like friends when we lived in Texas together. I grew up with him and like a whole group of guys that like we were all best friends and stuff. But he's like my main.
He's your main.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I have 2 guy best friends who I haven't talked to in about 2 years. We grew up together, and my main guy best friend, I feel like he at one point had a huge crush on me when we were growing up. But he's younger than me. He's a few years younger than me. And at the, when you're kind of too close to age, a few years younger is a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously now that, we're both older, it's the couple years is not that much, but unfortunately we don't have that close, that pact to married, because like he would probably hate me at that point. And then my other one, he is also similar, and I think he had a thing for me when I was dating somebody.
Oh,
So kind of
6-year guy?
What?
6 years guy?
No.
Oh,
Oh,
different.
was I dating him? Yeah, I was dating 6 years ago. So I
You should have swooped in. You would have left.
You know what's funny? Okay, so I'm gonna tell this story. I was dating somebody for about 6 years, on and off, toxic, bad relationship, but
We've all been there. It's okay. Yeah.
So he was actually my second relationship ever, and it's crazy because like my 2 best friends, we know each other because we're swimmers together, so we grew up swimming together, and they're both lifeguards now. I could have been a lifeguard, but I didn't want to be one. So he was working as a lifeguard, and my ex was also a lifeguard. I don't know what it is about lifeguards, but anyways,
this is like a Wattpad story. I'm
it really is. Somebody take note to make this into a story. So the 6-year one, we'll call him Ben. And Ben, he and I would do these things like after work, we would go swimming at pools, pools. And so we're like, okay, we'll go swim, workout, actual swim, right? But before we would jump in the water, we'd make out in the car and, things like that. And then one day it kind of just progressed very quickly, and first intimate encounter right there. And then we got out the car and then we went to go swim, right? And before this, he had introduced me to his brother as his coworker. And I was like, oh, cool, okay. So then we're swimming, and then like I look up on the tower, and then my friend looks out. He's like, Grace? And I'm like, oh, hey. And then we started talking right there. I'm in the water. He's in the lifeguard tower. And then Ben swims up behind me. He's just like, hey. And then I'm just like, oh, hey. And then I'm like, oh, Alex, this is Ben, my coworker. And he goes like, your coworker?
Ooh, girl.
Coworker? And I was just like, yeah, you're just my coworker. And then he's like, cool. And he takes off. And then Alex, my friend, he like looks down at me and he's just like, damn, why you gotta do the boy like that? And I'm just like, what? I mean, that's what he said we were. And he's just like, so that's your flavor of the month, and like pretending that I have all these guys. And I'm just like, yeah, apparently that's him. And he's just like, damn, I can't believe you did that to him. Don't do that. Go talk to him. And I'm just like, no, like he can deal with it. So then I swim back to his side because it's like a really long pool. And then Ben stops me and he's just like, I can't believe you just said that. I was your coworker after what just happened. And I'm just like, well, what did just happen? Explain to me what just happened. And then he's just like, man, I'm not even going to talk about this. And then he just leaves. And I'm just like, okay, well, then there you go. We're not having this conversation. Then that's what it is. And I will always remember that interaction between my best friend and him, because it's like I can picture it, like he said, like a Wattpad story. I can picture that moment happening where the guy has to admit that he has actual feelings, but he never wants to say anything until some other guy pops up.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like all like opposite like best friends, like a guy and a girl, like at one point, like we do get feelings for the other person, but it's very rare it's at the same time and it works out.
it's always
And,
like times.
Always.
See, I dated Josh.
So
But it was
this is a second chance romance is what you're getting at. Like this
it was in like 6th grade though. So did it really count? No. It didn't count. It was in 6th grade. I think I was in love. I think I got married to another guy in like 2nd grade.
This is great.
I've had so many marriages at this point. I don't even know where to count it.
I've had none, so you guys are way ahead of me. I was just like, I don't know. I wasn't the girl that was like liked. Like middle school, high school, college came up, and then everyone's like, let's all try to get at her. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, what happened to me in college where every guy is just like, let's try to get at Tish? And then I went to Arizona State.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like you're from LA, right?
I'm from LA. And so everyone was just like, oh, let's try to get at Tish. And then I went to law school, and like even in my late 20s, it's like truth be told, I really didn't like any relationship I've been in. I felt like it was very short term. I told myself that because I was so focused on like law school and like my own goals. Like I always said like boys come and go, GPAs forever. Like that was like my motto. And so I like didn't really care for them. Now like guys are like starting to orbit back into like my vision. But like it's like of course it would be like in the middle of a pandemic when I can't really like date and like actually put myself out there. But it's
crazy. It's crazy that you're saying this like whole shift when you went to college, because we were talking about this yesterday on our live, I think. And so I basically explained it like this, like that society has like, you know, the beauty standard, like the scale, like if you're a 10 or whatever, right? So this one woman said on TikTok, she was just like, it's not that you're not attractive, it's that you're living in the wrong city. And she basically explained it like this, that you may be like a 5 where you're living, but you move to somewhere else and you're like an automatic 20. Yeah. And that's the struggle for us who live in LA.
Yeah.
Well, I don't live there anymore, but I'm still gonna count it. LA has like a beauty standard that's like so up there.
Yeah.
LA is just like,
it's funny because like people say they're like, it's like if you're ugly in LA, you're not really ugly. You're just ugly in LA standards. And like, I moved back to LA, and like people, like it's weird because like beauty standards have shifted kind of like in a way, because like I'm like thicker, right? Like that's like my body type, but I'm obviously not slim thick, which is what the body type, like when people are like, I like thick girls, what they mean is like I like Fashion Nova girls. Yeah. Like I like girls that are just like Fashion Nova. That's not my body type. Now, like I guess I fit into LA like standards in a way, but like still not, like I'm still not slim thick, and I'm also not like beach blonde Barbie. Like I'm not Kylie Jenner, but I'm also not like Paris Hilton. So it's just like, So it's hard. Like, I don't know. I think I definitely transformed in college. I think that's why like I started getting attention, because like high school me was just like, I mean, I look completely different than I do from high school to now. But even like on TikTok, when I get like compliments, like you're like sometimes people be like, you're like one of the prettiest people I know on Book Talk, and I'm just like it. And I will literally, like, my most viral video, like this video stays getting, like, it's not even on Smut, by the way. This video is like my most emotional reads ever. Like, that stays getting likes. I don't even know how much likes it has anymore. I just know it's over like 100K views, like, at this point. And like, I am literally like in a braid. Coconut oil is in my hair. It's like my greasy ass hair. Like, I'm in my PJs, like in a ratty shirt, and like some of the comments are like, you're literally the most beautiful person I've seen on TikTok. And I'm just like, what? I was like, have you seen the people on TikTok? I'm like, Addison Rae in general, I'm just like, that girl rules TikTok. What makes you think? And then someone was like, if there were like baddies on Book Talk, you'd be one of the baddies. And I'm just like, I don't know if y'all are not exposing yourself to other book talkers, but like, thank you so much for the compliment. It made my entire year. But I'm just like, expose yourself more, because like
Same. I swear, when somebody is just like, oh my gosh, you're so pretty, or whatever, or like, you know, I start feeling myself, and I'll post like, you know, like a thirst trap Book Talk video or whatever. It's more for me, but then like I'll get compliments, and I'm just like, but I'm not. So
yeah.
You feel like they're lying. Like, I always feel like they're lying. I'm like, okay, you don't have to make yourself feel better by complimenting me. Like, stop. That's what I always feel like whenever somebody's like, oh my God, you're so pretty and stuff. Or like, I'll be on live and somebody will be like, oh my gosh, you're so pretty. And I'm like,
Right.
Who are
where?
you looking at?
Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
is there a ghost behind me or something? I do not.
It'll always be like when I'm not made up, like when people are just like, you're so, like when I'm on live and I'm like chilling with like my followers, they'll be like, you're so pretty, and I'm just like, are you saying that because you're nice? But we are our own worst enemies. Like, we will never see ourselves the way other people see us. Like, that's just a fact. Like I can, for like, I think it's because we grew up, once again, like, representation is really important. I grew up in the generation of like models, like, okay, like what I grew up with in the early 90s, I mean, not 90s, whoa, like, well, yeah, 90s and 2000s, if I'm being honest, like, it was like skin, like size 2 to 0, stick skinny girls. And then when I entered my 20s to now, the body type is like slim, thick, Fashion Nova girls. So it's like a huge body dysmorphia, from like stick skinny girls to slim, thick girls. And you're just like where, and like when you're in the middle, like me, between those girls, and like you're an average size, and you're also like not white, and like you don't fit the white beauty standards, it's really, really hard to take those compliments. So when people give it to you, you're just like, are you trying to make me feel, I mean, it's helping, but like, it's okay, like, you don't need to lie to me, like, it's okay. So
it's
like,
always like that. It's just like, and on top of that, like, you know, I guess it does help that we're not white. Sorry, Maggie. Sorry.
I have my own problems that I deal with, but I understand where you're coming from about the like not being able to take compliments, because we talked about this on live, like body dysmorphia. I mean, you were talking about like that. Like, I suffer from that. I will admit that I suffer continuously still.
I thought I was fat in high school, and no one was fat in high school. Like, we all thought we were like bigger and like terrible in high school, and I'm just like, the body that I had in high school is the one that I would die for now. Like, I would die for that body. And I would like want to shake, like, sit like teenage Tish and be like, embrace this body. like
man,
like, it's hard. But no, it's like, for TikTok especially, like, I always say it, like, being like a woman of color on TikTok is hard. Like, I always say it. Like, Amon was the only other person, or the only other brown girl I knew that was like making it like big, and she's made it big. And then so like when people are like, well, you're making it big now too. Like I always get like, I consider you the romance, like one of like actually the romance book talker. And so when people say that, I'm just like, I kind of freak out because I'm just like, oh shit, like please. But at the same time, like I do get DMs from like women of color who are just like, thank you for like actually like using your platform and looking the way you do, because like you helped me start my platform. And I think that's so important. But like you are your own worst enemy. Like I always say that on the live. Like today I was on live and people were like, I don't know if I want to start book talk because I'm scared of getting hate. And I was like, but why? Do it. Like you're gonna get hate regardless. Like you know this, but like just do it because you love it. But and someone was like, what if I don't like how I look? And I was like, I was like, girl, I have posted with like pimple cream on my face. I promise you, like it's okay. Like just do it because you love it, and like do it because like if you're okay with yourself, or at least for that day, if you're okay with yourself, that's like all that matters. So
Yeah, I definitely get that. I've wanted to start like a booktube for a while, and I finally did.
I
And
saw.
I said like F it, I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna post, like I already shit post. So my booktube content is just gonna be rants, me drinking boba, ranting about smutty books, and
As you
showing
should.
book hauls. That's literally what it's all gonna be. Like that's my brand. That's what I am. And is there probably going to be a 40-minute video of the off campus versus the Kings of Rittenhouse and the Fulton U? Yes, I have planned for a 40-minute rant on.
And you know what? Those are all my favorites. I have very, very opinionated views on all of them, so I can't wait to see this video. So
I'm gonna start planning for it after this week when I have my big accounting test. Like next weekend, I'm gonna start planning and writing out like all my problems and issues with it.
I haven't read Kings of Rittenhouse yet. So I read Off Campus, obviously, and I read Fulton U. I haven't read Kings of Rittenhouse. I finally put it on my wish list, hoping like someone gets it for me. I'm like, please, one of my rich followers,
It's on
please buy me this book.
Kindle.
KU. I know, but I'm like a psycho now, where I'm just like, I want to collect all the books.
Yeah,
I've become like a hoarder.
I want people to like buy books for me, but then almost like don't buy books.
Yeah, I always say that. I'm just like,
I have too many already as it is, but like honestly, I think I'm gonna start putting Kindle books, because if you can buy me a Kindle book when it's like $3.99 and you want me to read it for you and review it, I'll definitely do that. But like I definitely have planned for like, I've been thinking about what I'm gonna be talking about in the video, but like Kings of Rittenhouse was so similar, and so was Fulton U, that I was just like.
So I read Off Campus in 2016. I read Fulton U in 2019 is when it came out. I haven't read Kings of Rittenhouse.
Did you read Briar U too?
Yeah, I've read Briar U. So when I read Fulton U, the first book, I was like getting deja vu, and I was like, why is this? I was like, what is this reminding me of?
You already guessed the plot.
Guess the plot. And I was just, but then I also like, my opinion is that Fulton U is 1010% better than Briar U. Not Off Campus. It's 1000% better than Briar U. Like I didn't like Briar U. And people always ask me, why don't you recommend Briar U? And I was like, oh, because I didn't like it. I only liked one book, and it was The Risk, and that's the one I recommend all the time off of Briar U.
This is so good though.
Yeah, I was like, but Jake is Garrett in a different font. Like Jake is literally Garrett, but in a different font. And like, and Brianna, is that her name? She's literally Sabrina in a different font. I was just like, it's literally. So I loved Fulton U. I think I liked Fulton U a lot better than Briar U, because we finally got like plus size rep in a way that like, because plus size rep is so hard to find in books, because the girl always ends up hating herself. Yeah. She goes on a crazy diet, and I hate that in new adult books. Like she goes on a diet, she loses like extreme diet. She talks about how she hates herself. She talks about how like guys don't like her, and I'm just like, can we get a character who has who's plus size and can have off days? Like, but she's okay with how she looks. Like, can we get a character like that? I think Elle Kennedy tried that with The Dare, but I dislike Taylor so much because
I don't even remember The Dare.
That was our plus size rep in Briar U. It was like Taylor was right, because and Fulton U, we got plus size rep in the third one, and she was okay with her body, and we got a guy who like was just like, you don't need to diet, and she didn't diet, and I was like, oh my god, finally a plus size rep where like she's like, the main thing is not like her being a plus size girl, which is the same thing I have with like I always say, like when there's a Black woman or woman of color, like the plot point of like that should not be racism. Like I don't need to read about another like couple who's dealing with racism. Let's just let them live and fall in love and just like do them kind of thing. So I think that's why I liked Fulton U a lot more. I haven't read Kings of Rittenhouse. I'm actually reading that like next week, and I'm so excited. But we'll see if I like it.
So I agree with that. Sorry, Grace, we're totally leaving you out of this conversation. But like I agree that like Fulton U, I think especially with the way that they dealt with the plus size was definitely better than El Kennedy, because El Kennedy's, I totally forgot about what happened. Versus in the Fulton U, I remember everything in that book. Like the letters, top tier. That was such a plot point. But the thing is like, I don't know why, but it was so similar to Briar U, and that's why I was a little turned off by it, because I was like, why is it so like, I know it's football players versus hockey players, but it was so similar that I was like,
Yeah, I wonder if like Elle and Maya, like I don't know if they're friends, but like it was, I mean, if I caught it and I was like a really like I haven't read Off Campus in a long time. Like I do read The Deal like at least like once a year, but I haven't read it through in a long time since it's ended. But when I read Fulton U, which was like 2 years ago, I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, this is very, very similar. But I think it was only like book 1 that was very similar, and then 2, 3, 4 I would say weren't.
I feel like the Kings of Rittenhouse is a lot similar to Off Campus. I think that's one where it's major similarities where you're like, whoa, like
I've heard that, because like it's the same like plot points and like tropes. I know there's
borderline like plagiarism.
I've heard that, and so it's interesting because like that's also one of the series that people are like, please read. I want to know your opinion because you're like an OG Off Campus reader, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna read it because I really like Maya, and I've featured both Maya and Elle Kennedy on my page. And like Maya's even reached out to me. She's like, please read like blah blah blah, and I'm just like, okay, I will, because I like really like you, but I really want to see if like I like feel the same way about it. So it's hard because like I also like I'm very keen on like not featuring authors who plagiarized on my page. Like I
don't know if it was straight. It was just a lot of similarities that I caught on to as I was reading the books, where I was like, this happens already in a book that I already know about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it felt like that deja vu thing where you're like, how is this? And I also looked up the dates when they were published to like see like when was Off Campus published versus when was the Kings of Rittenhouse published.
They're like, I know Kings of Rittenhouse and not Off Campus, but Briar U was like they were like back to back. So like Briar U ended in 2019, and I think Kings of Rittenhouse ended in like early 2020, I believe. So it was pretty back to back, but I mean, I have no idea, but it's funny because so many people, like my DMs were flooded with like, please read Kings of Rittenhouse, please read Kings of Rittenhouse. And I was like, okay, I got it.
I think my Fulton U review did really, really well because a lot of people I feel like Fulton U, but not a lot of people like Rittenhouse.
Okay. Why? I loved Fulton U.
But Fulton U was so good. Fulton U was really good. So let's change of subject because we want to add Grace.
Compare. So is that the one that I have to read first? Is Fulton U the one that I go to first?
No,
Off Campus is the one you go to first for sure. I have a feeling Grace will really like Dean. If I were to choose,
she's gonna love Garrett. She's gonna love Garrett.
Really? You think she's? I don't know Grace as well.
Melissa really liked. Melissa and I were talking about it last night on the live, and we decided that like Grace would really like Garrett or Tucker.
Hey, so my 2 favorites, Grace. We have the same taste because everyone knows I'm like Tucker supremacy on my account. It's like Garrett or Tucker. They're like head to head, which is why I refuse to do like, you know how everyone's like ranking the off-campus boys and Briar U boys? Yeah, no. So I'm not, I have it saved, but I'm like scared to hit send because I'm like, if people come at me, I'm just I'm not gonna have it.
I'm
Maggie
looking at my audio and I have 53 videos on that audio. People came for me in the comments when I put Tucker last. People were like, "This is Tucker slander," and I was like,
I think I saw that and I was just like, I like didn't comment, but I was just like, I'm shocked. Like that's my boy. Like,
like he just wasn't my type, and that's the thing is he just like I
Right.
really liked every single book, but he just wasn't my type, and like people were like, "Why is he like the last one?" And I literally was like, "Guys, he's not my type. That's why he is last." Like I still
Yeah.
liked him, like I still enjoyed the story, but I just didn't like him as much as I liked the other guys.
So that must mean that Tucker and Garrett are like kind of obnoxious a little bit sarcastic, a little bit fun, playful. Is that what I'm
No,
getting?
that's see, that's why I think she would like Dean. Because like what she's describing is I think you'll like Dean
I
and
think
Garrett.
she liked Logan more than Dean.
I don't think you'll like Logan. I have a feeling it's because like I'm basing it off just based on Cassian and who Cassian reminds me of.
That's true.
So I think it's gonna be Dean and Garrett. Like I think like Tucker's more of like the quiet. Tucker's Azriel. Okay, if we're doing like fantasy terms. He's like the quiet. He's like the quiet one.
But he wasn't really good Azriel. He wasn't a good Azriel. That's what I felt like.
No, he's like a quiet Southern boy that's like a freak in the bed. Like you're
Okay,
just like when you.
It was the Southern boy that turned me off because I grew up in the
I
South.
love when we get Southern boys.
I grew up in Texas, so like Southern boys are just like I'm just annoyed of Southern boys. Like
Okay,
but like
I see.
he was trying like I understood she tried to write him as like the Azriel guy, like the quiet freak in the sheets guy, but I just couldn't get behind that.
Yeah, I love Tuck. So,
but Fitz.
Look at her. She's like, but Fitz. See, for me, it was like, but Jake. I like got to Jake, and I was like,
Fitz and Jake are like my top two out of the whole series.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways.
So explain to me, someone who has never read this series, what's it about?
Okay,
Hockey
so
boys.
hockey. In short, hockey. No, it's so. Off campus is about 4 roommates, right? You meet them in the first book, and they're about a hockey team. One of the first book is on the hockey team captain. His name is Garrett. He's like everyone's love. He's like the cocky, like man on campus that like every girl wants to get with. And he's like obviously like he's like the one guy, and he like refuses to date someone. Like he's just like, I don't want a relationship. I'm going to the NHL. I don't need this right now. Meets this girl because he's
that already based on that. I'm like, yeah,
he meets this girl because he's failing a class and she has a really good grade in the class, and he's just like, I need this girl to tutor me because I will be kicked off the hockey team. You can see where it goes from there. Okay. And then the rest of them, like Logan is like his best friend. I mean, they're all his best friend, but Logan's like that's his boy. So you meet Logan, and he's like the how would you just he's like family oriented, and like but he's also like very very cocky, and he like
they're all really cocky.
All of them
extremely cocky.
All of them are very cocky. Like all of them are cocky in different fonts, I would say. Like I would say the most cocky is Dean. Like he's the playboy. He is the one that is literally like, you are like, what is wrong? Like, why are you like this, Dean? But you also like are in love with him. Like he's just the playboy who like gets every girl, doesn't take anyone seriously. And then you have Tucker, who's also cocky, but he's the quiet one, and he's like the mother hen of like all of them, and he's just like, please, like let's get it together. But he's a freak in the sheets. They're all freaks in the sheets, but like yeah. Okay, so that's what it's about.
I want to hear more about the second one. What was the second one?
The second
Logan.
one. Oh yeah.
Okay, so continue with Logan.
Logan is the cocky playboy who like doesn't believe in like love, and like he meets this, like, I'm not gonna tell you what happens. Let's just say he meets this freshman. He's a senior, and he meets her like randomly, and they like start up this like hookup session, and they end up like falling for each other. But there's more complications than that, and like he confuses his love for someone else as something else. Let's just say that. Let's say he falls for the wrong person thinking it's love, but it's not love. So that's Logan. Dean is like the cocky playboy who hooks up with everyone and is like the love of everyone's life because he's so beautiful. Like he's literally described as like an old Hollywood movie star, and he's like super rich, like rich. And he ends up like starting.
He's old money rich.
He's old money rich, and he ends up like starting a fling with the first heroine's best friend. So, and like it's like low key like looked down upon because like the best friend is getting out of a relationship and she doesn't want anything serious. Tucker, my man, is like the quiet mother hen who's also cocky but is like a southern charm. He ends up starting a relationship with Dean's rival. Like the girl, like Dean has a rival, and it's this girl that he always fights with. And I thought they were going to be enemies forever. I thought it was going to be Dean.
I did too. I thought it was going to be them two together too.
Yeah, but it's Tucker and her, and they end up like hooking up, and things arise, and like she's like this badass like woman who like ends up going to law school. So it's the one that people fan casted me as, and I basically fucking like sobbed when people were just like making
well,
fan cast.
That you
there
sound
were like 5 different fan casts.
You sound
Stop. There were like so many people made, like by so many I mean like 5 different people made fan casts of me, and I was just like, I'm good, I'm so good. Like I was like, I never have wanted to be fan cast, but the fact that y'all think of me as Sabrina is so nice because she's white, but like that's so nice. But yeah, so
okay,
like,
so based on these quick
summaries
of these, what I'm hearing is I like the second one, so Logan, Garrett for sure, Dean not so much, Tucker a little bit, but I feel like I'm usually the mother hen of the group and I can't get with another mother hen.
That's the reason why I don't like Tucker, is because I'm the mother hen of the group. So like I don't like that when somebody else is the mother hen of the group.
That's
and like
hilarious.
I don't know why. Like Tucker is I didn't like, he's supposed to be my type because that's what my type is, but he like, if you know
it makes sense. Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? I might come out of this series and be like, Dean is where it's at. And
I don't know. I feel like my money's on Dean for you. If we were gonna make a bet, like when you do read it, my money is on Dean. Well, for sure Garrett, because everyone loves Garrett. I will ride or die for that man until like death. But like I don't know. My money's on Garrett. And if we're doing Briar You for you, I think my money is on Fitzy for you.
I don't think Fitz would be hers.
Right. You're right.
Jake.
Jake? Actually, I would think Hunter would be more her type.
Hunter would be her type. So Grace I'm going to give you my Kindle login after this.
Okay.
So that you can read it, okay? I'm going to make a little library in my Kindle. Grace needs to read.
We're shooting for Dean?
I'm shooting for Dean for you. She's, I think, shooting for Logan for you.
I think I'm shooting for Garrett. Or Garrett's already...
Okay, Garrett's already given it. Minus Garrett, if we were to choose the other 3 boys, I would choose a Dean for you.
Okay.
So...
I would choose...
Like, if it so happens that I don't like any of them, but Garrett is the only one, then
we're both right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both win.
I think I'm gonna shoot for Dean too, because I like Logan.
Are you a Logan girl? I don't remember your like rankings.
I can pull it up real quick. I was looking at it. It got surprisingly so like, it was like not a lot of people liked how I ranked them, but a lot of people liked the video and like used the sound. So let me just wait for it to go through. But like, I just did it on a whim. I literally did it. Like, I thought, oh my gosh, I should finish the series. I was like, I should just rank them. And I made the video and stuff, posted it, and then I was getting like so many comments and stuff about what happened. I was like,
yeah, I get asked like at least like 3 times on a live. They're like, can you please rank the boys? And I'm just like, you guys are not. I was like, I feel like you're not gonna like my rankings. Like, some of your favorites are like gonna be on the bottom, and I'm not trying to be attacked right
now. So I'm a little surprised by my ranking myself. So 1 is Fitz.
I can see that.
2 is Dean. So I changed my mind. You get Logan. I stay with Dean. I understand now why I like Dean. Seeing this lineup, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. And then I have Jake, which it's Jake.
Makes sense. It's Jake. Yeah.
And then I have Logan. And then I have Garrett.
You have Garrett. Are you okay? No wonder people attacked you. Oh my god.
And then I have Hunter. And then I have Connor. And then I have Tucker.
Like that is okay. I understand. The Garrett one is no wonder people. I'm sure half the comments are like, "Are you okay for putting Garrett that
Garrett
low?"
slander all of the building.
It is Garrett. That is Garrett slander. I mean, I don't comment hate, but if I did, I would put Garrett slander on there.
But like the thing is, like, I literally thought, like, okay, what guys do I think of first? Like, what guys do I automatically think in my head? And Garrett was not a guy that I automatically thought in my head.
I like when I do these ratings, I do it based on like how much I like them. If I were to do it on like who I would hook up with in real life, it would probably be like Fitz and Garrett. Like, but I would not put Fitz on top. I didn't like Fitz. I was just like, like he's probably like top. Yeah.
I loved Fitz. I was so excited to read about Fitz when I was reading off campus. Like
Yeah.
I think when I was reading Dean's book, I was excited to read about Fitz. So I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, it makes sense. It's fine. Books are subjective, but that's hilarious. I know you got hate for that because I was the way you I was like, where's Garrett? Like I was waiting for his name. I know you got.
like
I'm gonna
the
now.
top comment is justice for Garrett. Like it's
Like
the top comments are like, one is like Garrett at 5. The audacity.
the audacity. I'm gonna now look at these comments and I'm just gonna like go after this like podcast is done. I'm gonna go through this video and look at the comments because that's hilarious.
So funny. It is funny because
Off campus is low-key like a cult now, like ACOTAR. It's starting to become like that. And I'm just like, everyone like take a breather. Like I'm just
I feel like I
okay.
need to reread now. Even though I read it in March, I feel like I need to reread already.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna reread before the Legacy, but like let's see, because I have so many books I need to read that I can't.
I'm honestly a little bit scared to read them because of like, you know, so many people love them or whatever. And this is gonna be my jump back into new adult romance. So
I would, but like Grace, I would say I think it's like my 5th video ever. I talked about off campus in December, and how I introduce this as is like it's a really good beginner romance.
Yeah, I would agree.
Getting into like I wouldn't recommend I do not recommend off campus to like my people who like darker, smuttier like romances. It's a really good leeway into
it's a
like
light romance. And it definitely introduces you, because I was now introduced to all my romance stuff through off campus. That's what literally off campus is what started my like smut train.
That's good. It's like it's kind of like that thing of like you don't want to start a series because it has so much hype around it.
Right.
Like so many books out there that I'm not picking up because of the hype around it and because I'm terrified I'm not gonna like it. Like I think part of it is the reason why I haven't really gotten into Six of Crows is because so many people like it so much.
I was just thinking Six of Crows when you were saying like
I know I will love it because I do love like the found family trope. I like, them working together, and like I love the heist thing because like I love movies like that, but like something is stopping me from picking it up and like reading it because so many people around like it. That's how I am kind of with Throne of Glass. Like I want to like stay away from it until no one's talking about it, and then I can jump into it.
I mean, nobody's not going to ever not talk about it though.
No one, that's the thing. And then with the show coming out, coming out today for those of you listening to the show. Yeah, sorry. Sorry to those of you who hear I haven't read Six of Crows. I'm sorry.
Oh, I forgot it comes out today.
Well, yeah.
On this, Friday, the 23rd is when this episode airs. Literally, I'm going to be in accounting. I'm coming fresh out of an accounting test. I am reading The Crown of Gilded Bones, finishing that, and then I am straight binge watching the new Shadow and Bone. So that's why I'm also taking a break from TikTok. Is I'm going to leave the internet while I am leaving the internet while I read the Crown of Gilded Bones and watching Shadow and Bone, because I do not want any spoilers. And I trust book talk because of spoilers.
And JLA issued like this thing of like, how like I tried to do like a spoiler free on my account access. JLA, she's like, no spoilers for a whole month.
Okay.
And I was like, I love it. And so like we're
Yeah.
on your spoiler Facebook group. Are you? Do you happen?
I haven't. That's Blood and Ash, right? Is that what you guys
Yeah.
are talking about? Okay, so so Blood and Ash, I'm starting next week. I finally jumped the gun and bought the Kindle version. I've had it actually, and but that's like everyone's like, when I tell you the amount of people who come at me and
That's
are just
a
like,
cult.
it's a cult. They're like, read this now. It was like ACOTAR and from Blood and Ash people were just like going head to head in my comments of like, Tish, you need to read this now. And I'm just like, okay, I'll tackle one at a time. I feel like I might like From Blood and Ash a little bit more though, because a lot of people keep saying like it's much more in your realm. And I'm just like, interesting. So I'm really excited to dive in, but I'm thankfully my For You page is not book talk, which is wild to people. It's not. It's like food. All I have on my For You page is food. So I don't really get spoilers. So I'm really happy. ACOTAR has been spoiled for me for like ages to come. Like I've given up on like trying to hide from ACOTAR spoilers. So
I think did you read YA when you were younger?
Yeah, for sure. I didn't jump into like the new adult like adult romance world until I was honestly when I was in my 20s. Like
when you were a new adult.
When I was a new literally when I was a new adult. So I was much more into like I stayed in like the YA section. So like I think my favorite I don't like my favorite book series was Hush Hush. It's not talked. I feel like it's like
Hush Hush is more about like angels, fallen angels.
Yeah, it's like demon stuff. And then but
that came out like so it's crazy because it was like the vampire phase, the werewolf phase, and then the angel fallen angel.
Yeah.
Phase.
Yeah. And
like the vampire werewolf phase.
Hell yeah. I was totally was part of that.
You're my people, Tish.
I was totally a part of that. I was like team werewolf all the way. I'm still team werewolf, I feel like. I don't know why, but I feel like werewolves are just 10 times hotter to me. I don't know if it's because they're like bigger men. Like I just imagine them as like.
That's definitely me too. But people say that I give off werewolf vibes, and I'm just
You
like,
do.
Yeah, you do.
Hell yeah. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Why?
I think I could totally see you in a pack. I watched Teen Wolf and like it was so funny. Girl, the way Avon rides for Dylan O'Brien, I was like, girl, we might have to fight, but it's okay. I'll take Chris Evans, you'll take Dylan O'Brien. But I loved Teen Wolf. Like I loved Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf was it.
I was like, bring it back.
In that case, since you're part of like, since you and I kind of grew up with like the same age stuff, From Blood and Ash.
Okay.
He's like, bring back the smut.
Like from Blood and Ash will definitely bring a little bit of nostalgia.
Cool.
In like a new way. And yeah, it's fantasy, which I know that you're not really into, but
it's not that I'm not into fantasy. I just think that fantasy has so much hype at TikTok, and it like for me, it's like it's been so overexposed that I get scared to jump into it because like if I have a different opinion, people on fantasy book talk will like attack me for it. So I will always read something once at least. So
yeah, it's not like what I mean is like it's not like super high fantasy.
Okay, cool. That I can do.
It's fantasy, but it's
more of a romance book. It want a romance. It's a romance book where romance is like the main plot driver.
Cool,
like,
cool.
Yes,
so that's
a subplot of fantasy, and there's vampire werewolves in it. The main thing is it's a romance book. It won a romance award for Goodreads. Like it's a romance book.
Yeah.
It's kind of like ACOTAR where romance is like the main thing and there's plot, but it's just better where the romance is better and the plot is better.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people were like, you're going to like From Blood and Ash much more than you like ACOTAR. And I'm like,
you have to put like, because Pauline has read it too. You have to put like all of us in a group chat where you send us your reaction.
I really want to. I will do it.
That group chat with all of us so that we can see what your reactions are.
Yeah, Pauline will get my reactions from like time to time. Mostly I'll get her reactions because like for example, like I kind of forced Off Campus down her throat. I forced Ravenhood down her throat, and she'll be like, Tish, what is this? And then she'll like start reading it. I'm just like, yes, Polly, and like get into this. I haven't really driven into fantasy. I did send her ACOTAR reactions. I also like was on Goodreads and updating it, and people were like, I loved when you were updating, because like you could see my gradual progression for ACOTAR. I was like, I hate this book, and then the second book, I literally at 10%, I was just like, whoa, like this is getting good. Like I was like, wait, like, and it just started rolling. And then the last 10% of the book, I was like, what just happened? Like what just happened in the second book of ACOTAR from Blood and Ash has been so hyped up for me, from like even followers who don't really read fantasy. They're just like, you need to read from Blood and Ash.
You may not like
Yeah,
it.
you might not like it because like I've known a lot of people who don't like it, but I think you'll like it because it is I think a lot of people who don't like it is because it has a lot of romance, and that's like the
I love romance.
plot drive.
Yeah.
But since romance is your thing, and like when I read it, it was like just starting to build up on the hype. Is when A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire came out. That's when it like soared. Like that book is what made it soar, skyrocket in popularity and stuff. But I read it because of Grace. We talked about it in our last episode, but I think you would like it because it is a lot of romance.
Yeah, I read JLA. I read her other paranormal book, but it's old. It's like old. So,
but this is her first like new adult fantasy.
Okay. Because I liked her old paranormal stuff. I was like, that's what I read when I was like.
She's written like young adult, and then she's also written like adult romance too. So
she's in like the romance and like the sweet nothings.
Yes.
Say to you. She's gotten it down so perfectly that like From Blood and Ash has become my favorite book.
Wow. Okay.
And that's not pressure to you. That's not pressure. It became my first like love, almost in a sense, because like when I read ACOTAR, people were already talking about ACOTAR, and I read it back in like March, because that's when I got onto Book Talk. So people were already like hyping it up, so I didn't feel like it was mine. But then when I got From Blood and Ash simply because I saw it on a few people's pages, but.
Oh, there is a freeze. Oh no, it froze.
Maiden fell in love with Maiden and like Forbidden Romance with the Guard. That's all I get. And that's on the back of the cover, you know? And the way I was so like surprised in the sense that I knew nothing about the book going in. Like you'll follow, like there's a heavy foreshadowing in the book.
Okay.
I get a lot of the main plot points.
Yeah. I get a lot of like what's coming before it comes.
I'm like very
is there.
I'm like very like good at like finding plot twists before it happens. I guess that's just how like a book. If a book surprises me, it will automatically go on like my favorites. Like I did a plot twist one recently, and that one was just like everyone's like, oh, these books. I was like, guys, like these books like surprised the hell out of me. But I'm excited. I don't feel pressure at all. I'm actually really excited to read it. It's been on my like April TBR for a while. Because I've had to plan my TBR out now, which sucks because I'm very much a mood reader. But From Blood and Ash has been one of the things that I'm just like, okay, it's time for me to like finally dive in. So I'm excited.
Let me know what you think.
I will, girl. Don't worry.
We have to get this is kind of a spoiler. I'm gonna announce it right now. So whoever's in the listening to this episode right now is gonna get the spoiler. But Pauline is actually gonna be on our first episode of May. So we're really excited. Pauline is gonna be on the podcast. I'm so excited that she's on. I can't believe that.
Yeah, I love Pauline. Pauline was like me and Pauline became friends before I was even a book talker. Like I like messaged her. It was so funny. Like I don't even know how many followers she had back then. And we were just like talking, and she was just like, I think you're like one of the only followers that like I talk to like every day. You seem so cool. And then like we exchanged numbers, and then I started Book Talk. She's like one of the reasons I started Book Talk. She's like, you read way more than I do, and you have like so much knowledge on romance books. And she kind of like implanted the idea in my head. She's like, have you ever thought about like actually talking about it on Book Talk? And I was like, no. I was like, I don't think people would like me. And she's like, I don't know. I feel like people will really like you. And so I did my first video, and it got like I mean, I was already like arc readers for certain like authors. So like my first one was like on LJ Shin, but like I like announced like I was like an arc reader for that. It got some attention, and then slowly, gradually, I just kept like. I mean, my rise was like very quick in a sense because I like never thought I would rise to like 25K and plus, but like Pauline is like someone like we're like real life friends. We were supposed to get like lunch this week, but we like didn't have time, so we're getting lunch next week. So I'm excited. I'm so excited that she's your makeup.
I'm interjecting myself right here because like
Yeah.
apparently Pauline is maybe like 30 minutes from me.
Oh my god, we should get lunch.
I didn't know that you lived in LA, which
I
is
do
where
live in
I
LA.
lived. I lived in LA.
Why is everybody living in LA? I live in Buttonor, Kansas.
We can come visit you. You can show us around Kansas.
So
Or you
like,
can move to LA.
yeah, literally. I mean, that's
I think
basically.
I'm gonna have to because of grades.
You
I
should.
think I'm gonna have to move to or like
You guys can be like roommates.
she
be
has a
roommates.
house.
Yeah, they have a house.
As long as they can fit bookshelves.
You come live with me. I'll give you the office downstairs. But like, yeah, I didn't know that we were all like in the close by. So
Yeah, we should all get lunch. I'm so down.
invite me.
We will. Don't worry, girl. Don't worry. I like me and Pauline are like the worst at making plans. Like we were like, we'll get lunch, and then we never decided where we were gonna eat. And we're just like, we're just gonna push it back to next week. We're like chaotic. Like our like TikTok might look all put together, both of ours, but me and Pauline are like two chaotic like creatures that just like
I did not
at all
realize
times.
how short Pauline is.
Yeah, she's 5 feet. I'm 5'2".
I know.
I'm short too.
What?
Yeah,
What?
I'm 5'4". I'm 5'3 3/4", but I'm 5'4",
Yeah.
and
I'm
it's
5'4",
weird. Like,
5'5".
y'all look
Yeah.
really tall. Like on the
I
internet,
know.
y'all look tall, but then you're like, wait, you're 5 foot? I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Pauline is 5 feet. I'm 5'2". Anytime I tell people I'm 5'2", they're like, "Why did I think you were like 5'6", 5'7"? And I was like, "No, I'm 5'2". Like,
What I would have guessed.
yeah, I think like there's like a psychological study that like when you have like more respect for someone, you think of them as taller. Like, so it's like how people perceive you. So whenever someone comments, they're like, "Oh, I think you're so tall." I'm like, "Oh, cool. You think I'm like you respect me." So, but yeah, Pauline's short. I'm a shorty too. So she like the first conversation we ever had, we talked about our heights, and she's just like, "Oh my god, a fellow shorty. I've never had this happen to me." And I was like, "Yes, Pauline. Like we're near the same height." So
Wow.
Well, if you guys
Yeah.
get lunch this week, well, for us filming this week, let me know.
okay, yeah, I will. I mean, we have to like coordinate. Me and Pauline suck at it, but we definitely will. We'll add you into. We'll start a group chat, and then we'll add you too, Maggie. But you'll be in Kansas. You'll be there in spirit.
I will.
Like,
I will be there.
FaceTime you.
I'm gonna be in Omaha because I go to school in Omaha.
oh, okay. Where do you go to school?
I go to.
Are you allowed to say it?
I'll just say because I've said it before. I don't know if I've ever said it. I go to Creighton University.
Oh, okay. Okay, I know what that is.
You
I had friends go
do?
there. Yeah, I had friends go there.
Oh wow. Okay, that's weird because nobody has ever known about it. I mean, if you are like a nursing student or like a dental school, like or like law, a lot of people know it because of that. But I'm in business school, so not a lot.
Yeah. I just went to like the #1 party school. So anytime I say Arizona State, people are just like, "Oh, okay, I know what that is." So they're like, "Oh." They're like, she was either like a psycho or she was like in a like sorority. And I was just like, I leaned more towards the psycho, but I was like, I was not in a sorority. So, but I was like, you're close. So
Well, I thank you. I think we're gonna have to end it here because it is 9:24 where I live. But thank
it's
you.
7:30.
Yeah. So that's the difference is I'm always 2 hours behind ahead. So because I live in nowhere, Kansas. I mean, I live in Kansas City, so it's not nowhere, but
Not
it's
but nowhere. Hey, the best romances take place in like the middle of nowhere.
yeah, that's true.
So
Small town romances are it. But
They never happen in LA, okay? So at least you get
this
something.
is true. This is very true.
But thank you so much, Tish, for coming on the podcast. It was great to talk to you. I feel like it's weird because like I always say this every single episode. I'm like, when like a creator, like a big creator, like I'm a small creator, like Grace and I are like smallerish creators. Like our podcast is super small. Like we are tiny. I mean, we're growing on like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but like on YouTube we're pretty small. On Instagram we're really small. But the fact that you came on and like accepted and like said yes, we were like, oh my gosh. I think you had already agreed to come on with Grace, but I think like getting that confirmation through an email, I was just like,
Yeah, like I think one of you guys commented and they're like, "How are you interested in joining a podcast?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I am," because I peaked you guys. So like, thank you for having me on here because like, I mean, yeah, you guys can say like you guys are small creators, but I genuinely enjoy like your TikToks. Like to me, this was like such a pleasure because like I'm fans of you guys. So and like I'm fans of this podcast. So thank you for having me on. It was like really fun talking.
thank you so much. Yes, no, I definitely get bogged down with like the idea that like, what?
That people listen to us.
That people like actually like enjoy listening to us and they enjoy it because like Grace and I do it just as like a passion project where it's kind of though it's become bigger for me because I do manage it and then Grace just shows up. And that's not for her, but like I just took control of managing it and stuff and like emailing everybody. But it honestly, I'm so grateful that you came on and decided to come on the podcast because like it means a lot to me and it means a lot to Grace that like we have people who are actively wanting to participate and talk to us, which I don't think I'm that interesting. So like the fact that like other people are like, oh,
you guys are interesting.
And
like
so
that was like one of the funnest conversations I've had for like 2 hours. So
well, yes, thank you so much, and thank you to listeners who are listening right now. It was great to have Tish on, and the listeners are what make it possible for us to actually have guests on. Because if we didn't have listeners, we wouldn't have a platform. If we didn't have a platform, we wouldn't be able to do this. But so thank you guys so much for listening. Next week's episode will be hopefully The Crown of Gilded Bones, if we can both finish it in time. But we might push it back if we're gonna give like a month. I haven't decided yet if it's gonna be. I might do some rearranging. So thank you guys so much for listening. Have a good evening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
bye.